Hey guys, this is Zachary Adkins from Adkins Guitar and Music Lessons. Since winning the 2017 Flying Fingers competition, I've actually been able to make a living out of teaching hundreds of guitar players how to improve their playing. And in this video, I want to show you how you can become a better guitar player. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm going to tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. So if you've ever wondered how you could become a better guitar player, this is the video that you want to watch all the way through. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more of my videos. Enough with the intro, let's get to it. The first thing that you need to realize when you are going to sit down and write a solo or write something over a backing track or had somebody sent you something and you're trying to, come up with something on the spot, you have to remember that most of the time, probably 99% of the time, guitar solos are not written in one take. This is a common misconception that guys just sit down and then out pops this super amazing solo. That is so rare. You can't just start playing and then expect this solo to just fall out of your hands magically. Writing a solo is an art form. It takes time. Being a guitar player is an art form. It takes time. Everything that you want that's worth having takes time. So if you sit down and you want to expect yourself to write this amazing solo and the first time through you fumble through, you miss some notes, maybe you don't play as accurately as you wanted to, or you didn't hit the right note at the right time, it's okay. The biggest thing that I see when people come in when they want to sit down and write a solo or they're jamming over a track and they just get so down on themselves about how they just aren't coming up with anything cool or they're not coming up with anything that works. But the thing is that that's the foundation of what you're trying to build going forward. The first thing that you want to think about is you're going through this solo and it's like a test run. You're trying to find how the track flows and what ideas work over what chords or what riff or whatever. If you sit down and on your first and second try, you didn't hit it exactly the way you wanted to and then you give up and you get frustrated, then you're not really trying to improve yourself as a guitar player. If you want to become a better guitar player, you have to understand that when you're writing stuff, it's going to evolve over time. And what you need to do is when you write something, you need to listen back to it and dissect it and say, maybe this note worked, but this note didn't, or this phrase worked and this phrase didn't. And then you can build off of that. You can take that idea and then expand it out, or expand it going forward, or you can expand, how can I get to this idea, right? If you just stop and say, well, I'm just never gonna be the next guitar player, or like, I'm never gonna be the next Steve Vai, or I'm never gonna be the next Joe Satriani, I'm never gonna be whatever, then you are instantly doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing your guitar playing a disservice. When you see players on stage that are improvising, that is true improvising in the sense that they're taking ideas that they've already done over a new track or a new jam session with a band. But most guitar players revert back to the things they've done hundreds of thousands or whatever times they've done it. It's very rare that you see anything new and exciting and creative when they're just playing and they're just kind of shredding in the moment. Most of that comes from them sitting down, usually by themselves or maybe with a few other musicians, and coming up and bouncing ideas off of each other. That's when the creativity starts to flow. Then you practice it, you put it into your playing, then you can go do it live. It's not really the time and place live to just start experimenting with different ideas when you've got thousands of people watching you. With that being said, yes, while improvising, sometimes cool stuff happens, and if you have the forethought to stop or at least make a mental note about what happened, maybe later you could come back and apply that in your playing going forward. The other thing is, don't be afraid to make a mistake. I see a lot of guys when they come in, they sit, they play, they make a mistake, and then they just shut off. Everything they do just shuts down. They don't want to play anymore, or they just want to start the solo over. But sometimes when you make a mistake or you have kind of like a weird moment where maybe you weren't paying attention to what you were doing and you hit the wrong note, it can sometimes lead you into a really cool sounding phrase. I can't tell you how many times I've sat, played, and I had an idea of what I was going to do, and I messed up, hit the wrong string, and I went, well, you know what, I actually kind of like that. And I wouldn't have thought to do that if I would have just been so rigid with it. When you're soloing by yourself or you're jamming with these tracks and learning about how music flows and how solos flow with the music, that's the time to accept those mistakes, especially have them played back. So, while you're recording yourself, so you can hear what the mistake was and then be able to expand on that mistake. If you make a mistake and then you instantly shut down and you don't want to play anymore, or you just want to start the solo over, again, you're missing the point. You're not bettering yourself as a guitar player. The next thing I want you to look out for is when you are soloing over a track, or you're sitting down and you're trying to come up with a solo over something, make sure that you don't play right away. I'm using these experiences with the hundreds of people that I've taught by saying that most of them come in and they just start playing. The track's in A minor, okay, I know a lot of stuff in A minor, here we go, and then they just spouting off all these different ideas. What they miss though, and what you probably, if you looked at what you do in your routine, you're probably missing this too, is that you don't stop and listen to the track in its entirety. Let's say somebody sends you a solo track to do something over and it's 30 seconds. How many times did you actually listen to it without a solo at all? No music, no nothing, just the track that they sent you. Did you listen to it once, twice, 100 times? That is the time where you can start creating ideas in your mind without all of the guitar stuff. Because sometimes, and this is something that Steve Vai talked about a lot, was when he was writing For the Love of God, that most of that came from his head first, then he had to figure it out on the guitar. So it came from a different space. It came from a different mindset. It came from an internal melody rather than just all the tricks that you know how to do on the guitar. Because a lot of that is just habit. A lot of that is just stuff you keep repeating over and over again. No wonder you don't feel inspired. What I would suggest instead is hum something over that track. Even if it's a metal track, even if it's a blues track, a jazz track, whatever it is that you're doing. I don't care what kind of guitar player you are. Listen to the backing track. Understand what's going on. Listen to it hundreds of times. When I wrote the Flying Fingers solo, I listened to that in my car probably 100 times. I just kept repeating it, repeating it, repeating it. I didn't even have a guitar. I made sure I didn't have a guitar so I wouldn't even want to sit down and play. I wanted to create ideas first, because if you understand your instrument at the level you should, you'll know that when you get to it, you could play the idea that you have. And then you can add the guitar trickery stuff later. The one thing too is, if you're listening to it, you need to understand what the chords are in the background. Let's say it's something easy like a C major backing track and you're just jamming in C major, A minor. And do you know that the chord progression is a 1-5-6-4? Do you know if it's a 2-5-1? Do you know what the progression is? Is there anything that is outside of the key? Are they playing non-diatonically? And if they are playing non-diatonically, do you know how to play notes that aren't diatonic to make it sound good? Or do you know how to play stuff diatonically as a solo while keeping the backtrack non-diatonic? There's a whole lot that goes into it, even in just a 30-second clip of music. And if you only listen to it one time, you didn't take the time to listen to the track and hear the progression, you didn't listen to the inflections, you didn't hear what the drums are doing. Did the drums get louder at a certain point? Did the bass do something that, could be something that you could add maybe like an accent to? All of these things matter, and all of them are going to tweak how you respond as a guitar player. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at doing it in an improvised situation. The next thing is you have to know your theory. This is something that's talked about a lot in the music community. Like, should you know theory? Should you not know theory? Is theory going to ruin your playing? Is it going to, is it going to help your playing? Whatever the thing is, there's always a battle with people about it. But in my opinion, music theory is just a tool. The more tools you have, the more you're going to be able to do. If this was back in the late 60s, early 70s, a lot of those guys didn't know theory. They didn't know much about it. They knew power chords, they knew regular chords, open chords. They knew a little bit about solo, pentatonics and whatnot, but they really didn't dive too deep into theory. I think that if that was the case, if you were in that situation back then yeah, I mean, maybe you could have gotten away with not knowing theory and, you could have made something great. Because there's a certain point where, yes, as a beginner, I wouldn't suggest that you just dive into theory. But hopefully if you're watching this video, you're not a beginner, you're intermediate trying to become advanced, or you know how to solo, you're trying to improve that. You need to understand that theory is the way that music gets built. right? It's the foundation of it. If you don't understand the foundation, if you don't understand the rules, then you can't break the rules. Again, if you're a beginner, yeah, hitting theory right away can hinder you because it's like analysis paralysis for some people. There's too much thought process going on. They just want to play some songs, or they want to just play something and sound musical and get that inspiration. And I'm all about that, for sure. However, if you're stuck and you feel like, you know, I've been playing the same stuff over and over again and I'm not feeling inspired, well, then maybe theory is your answer. There's only so many pentatonic licks and, you know, major minor scale type things that you can do. But if you can understand maybe a little bit more about the modes, if you can understand how again, you take the rules and you can break them, you know, or you can understand that you have a track in a certain key and then you have some relative keys that work with it. You can play those as well and you can get an eclectic tone. On a side note, if you do want to improve your music theory and everything, check out my book, Guitar Efficiency. It's over 160 pages of daily exercises, music theory, and it's just overall, it's meant to just help you become a badass guitar player. Definitely check it out. The link is in the description and it helps support the channel. It helps support me. It's something that I created as a tool for everybody. So definitely check it out. There's gonna be more videos about that in the future, different exercises from it, but definitely check out Guitar Efficiency and you know, let me know if you ordered it and let me know what you think. The next thing you need to do, after you understand what theory is and you understand some of the components of it, then you have to put it to the neck. You have to put it on the fretboard. It's one thing to have it up here, but it's another to have it here in your hands. It's so much fun to sit and put all this stuff together and master something. I mean, if you think about how small the guitar is, you know, it's this big, it's very tiny, right? It fits in most of our hands like this, and it's this much space in the entire universe that you have to try to master. And that's kind of a daunting thing, but it's also a really fun thing. The fretboard is a map. All it does is tell you what's there, and it's up to you to find a way that works best for you. You have to be able to see all these patterns or see the scales and understand how the chromatic scale works on the neck, understand how the major scale works. What are major seconds and minor seconds, major thirds, minor thirds? How do we move them across multiple strings? Everything, like there's so much to it. You have to think, if guitar is what you want to do with your life, how much time and energy are you willing to spend to make it happen? Wouldn't you want to understand every aspect of it? Wouldn't you want to spend hours and hours breaking it down and just mastering those small little details that nobody else really understands? Do you really want to build a relationship with the guitar? I can honestly say I have sat with a guitar in my hands more often than I have not sat with a guitar in my hands. Meaning, at home, I sit with a guitar when I'm watching TV. Sometimes I'm not even playing. I just like sitting with it. I sit with it when I'm working on my computer. I'm sitting with it all the time. It's something that I never get tired of. I talk about guitar all day. All of my bills are paid because of guitar. I play guitar all day long, every day. I'm even teaching guitar on my wedding day. It's something that I want to teach, I want to play. Yeah, I'm getting married, but guess what? I scheduled my guitar playing first. That is how much I care about it. If you look at somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, one of the greatest bodybuilders, if not the greatest bodybuilder of all time, his whole life was consumed by bodybuilding. Every day, every second, he was consumed by it. And he talks about that. All he wanted to do was bodybuild. One extra rep, one extra set, one extra protein shake, whatever it was that pushed him every day. It wasn't work, it was what he wanted to do. And if you can imply all of that to yourself and the guitar, then you're gonna be successful. If you don't have that, then your chances of being good at the guitar and being a successful musician and getting better is going to start diminishing over time. Now, I understand we all have different things in life. We've got families, we've got kids, we've got wives, we've got jobs, we've got hobbies that aren't guitar. I get it. If it's something that you really want, then you have to work at it. You have to push. The last thing that I want to touch on to become a better guitar player is you have to start listening to better guitar players, people that are better than you. A lot of the times we play things, you know, we can only play at a certain level, so we only listen to guys at that level. And then, you know, one of my students said that they don't want to listen to this guy over here who's really amazing because it makes them feel bad about themselves. Well, you know what? Maybe you should feel bad about yourself for a little bit. because the only way to get better is if you don't like where you are and you push to be better. Now again, that's really harsh. And I'm not saying feel bad about yourself and, get depressed, but what I'm saying is you can be happy with where you are, but never be satisfied. You have to listen to players that are way better than you. You have to watch people that have this amazing skill that feels like it's impossible that you're trying to reach for. Otherwise, you're gonna keep staying where you are. I can even say that this has happened to me recently. I've been playing guitar for 16 years, and one guitar player that I never really got into, not that I didn't know his playing or appreciate his playing, but it was just somebody that I never really took the time to listen to because I had a bunch of other guitar players that I was listening to and obsessed about. This was George Lynch. It wasn't brought to my attention until one of my students, Sam, came in and said, George Lynch is my favorite guitar player, I've been listening to him forever. I want to learn everything that there is to know about him. And at first I was like, okay, well, I don't know a whole lot about him, so we're gonna be he ends up, actually it's funny because he ends up showing me more about George Lynch than I know, and he's not, and he's not an accomplished guitar player yet, he will be, but it's funny how much this guy knows about guitar and how much he knows about Lynch, and he knows all the terminology. He just can't get his hands to do it yet. But that's on him to take the time to work it out. But it wasn't until he brought it to my attention, having somebody like George Lynch brought to my attention, and now I'm starting to implement some of the stuff into my playing. Some of the cool pentatonic things and some of the, because he's not really a theory guy either, but he was still able to reinvent a little bit about the guitar and how we look at it. And I really enjoy his playing, and I'm starting to implement it into my own. So even after 16 years, you're not done learning. I want to wrap up this video by just saying that it's okay to not like where you are. It's okay to not feel that you've progressed as much as you wanted to. We all have different things in life that push us either forward or pull us backwards, but you have to stop thinking about it so much and start putting in the work. If you've been playing guitar for 20 years and you feel like you're not where you want to be, good. Because the second you think that you are where you want to be, you're just going to stop. You're not going to have that push, you're not going to have that motivation. On that note, you need to be able to look back and say, well, I may not be where I want to be, but at least I'm not where I was 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. Music is such an important thing, and it's something that a lot of people wish they had the ability to do. And I honestly think anybody can play guitar. It's up to you to push yourself to be a better musician, a better guitar player. And if you implement all of these things that we talked about and get real with yourself, I think you're gonna have a better chance at success. You have to set a goal, be persistent on that goal, be consistent on that goal, and never stop because it's important to you. If guitar is that important to you. And it doesn't have to be guitar, it could be anything, really. If you want to be a filmmaker, then you need to devote all of your life to filmmaking. If you want to be a photographer, you need to devote all of your life to photography. If you want to be a guitar player, then you have to devote your life to guitar. All right, guys, that was my look into how to improve your guitar playing. And again, there were some things I think that maybe sounded harsh, but again, I wanted you to hear what you needed to hear rather than what you wanted to hear. And hopefully this motivates you to get up and pick up the guitar and just start working. I know that you can do it. I know that everybody has it in them, and we all lose motivation from time to time, but don't get discouraged. Push even harder in those times. Again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel for more videos, and share this with some of your guitar friends that, maybe are lacking motivation or have been feeling kind of, down on their playing a little bit lately. And I'll see you guys in the next video.